In this lesson, we are going to factor each polynomial by grouping. And so we're using the concept we did yesterday in trying to factor out a common binomial. So the first thing to do is to look to see if there's any common factors between the terms. And we don't see any. See, there's some x's here that are in common, but this one doesn't have an x. 3's in common, or yeah, 3's in, well, no, 3's not in common because of the 5 here. 3 and 15 are in common, but the 5 and this term here don't have a common factor. So what we're going to do is we're going to group. We're going to group the first two terms and the last two terms. And we're going to try to come up with a common binomial once we take out the common factors between those terms. And so we're going to take a look at the grouped terms that we have and see what common factor there are between those. So here I see x squared can be taken out from each of these two terms. So once I do that, I take that x squared, I put it on the outside of a parenthesis, and then do the division to see what's left over. I've got an x and a positive 3. So the whole idea here is to try to take out a factor here that will make a common binomial, and that's what I'm looking for. So looking for that biggest factor, which is 5 in this case. So as we did before, same sort of thing. We take that common factor out, that positive 5, and I do the division, and I'm left with an x plus 3. See, 5x over 5 makes x, 15 over 3, or 15 over 5 makes 3. Now we've got it in a position where we can take out a common factor between these two terms. We can take out that x plus 3. So that's the common factor we're going to pull out. So we go ahead and take that and put that on the outside of a parenthesis. And then we go ahead and cancel out the common factors. So I see that the x plus 3's are going to cancel. What's left over? It's that x squared. So we'll put that inside here. Cancel out these x plus 3's. What's left over here? Just that positive 5. So x squared plus 5 is what's left over, and that goes in its own set of parentheses. And there's our answer. Well, another one to try. Again, the same sort of concept as before. We look for common factors between all the terms. We don't see them, so that means we're going to group the first two and the last two terms. We go ahead and take out the common factor. So between these terms, I see 2 goes into both 2 and 8, but they also have some a's in common. They have 2 a's in common, so a squared is what I'm going to pull out. So on the outside of a parenthesis, I'm going to put that 2a squared, and then whatever's left over when I do the division. Well, I've got an a left over here because these 2's cancel out. These 2 a's take out 2 of the a's here, so you're just left with a to the first. Here I'm left just to 4, minus 4, because the 2 goes into 8 4 times, and the a squareds cancel out. So that's the first part. Let's take a look at the next one. Now again, I'm trying to get an a minus 4, so let's see if I can do it. Well, I see 3 goes into these numbers, so that's what I'm going to take out. So I pull out that positive 3, and what I've got left is an a minus 4 when I do the division. So now we're ready to factor. And so now we've got a common binomial that we can take out. We can take out that a minus 4. And so that goes on the outside of a parenthesis. So put that a minus 4 outside, and we see what's left over. Well, whatever we get when we cancel the other a minus 4's out, whatever's left over is what we put inside the parenthesis. A 2a squared and a positive 3. Now let's take a look at this next one. Very similar problem, just different numbers. No common factors between the terms, so we draw 2 sets of parentheses. And we take out that common factor. So I see 2 goes into these two numbers, but I also see some x's. See, this one has 2 x's, this one has 3, so we can take out 2 x's. Let's take a look at this one. Well, this one has 5, I see, but I can't take out any x's, so that's all I can take out. So let's go ahead and rewrite our problem. So for this first one, I've got 2x squared. That goes on the outside, because whatever we take out from each of the terms goes outside. We do the division. I've got a 5. Over here, these 2 x's cancel out, leaves me with 5x. How about on the other one? 2 goes into the negative 16, 8 times, so minus 8 there. These x's cancel out, so that's it, 5x minus 8. Let's do the same thing with this one. 5 goes on the outside. It was a positive 5, so I write plus 5. Do the division. 5 goes into 25 5 times, so 5x. 5 goes into 40 8 times, so minus 8. All right, well, we're ready to factor out a common binomial. So we'll draw some lines underneath each of these terms. Take out that common binomial of 5x minus 8. So we go ahead and do that. Let's see what's left over when we do the division. So 5x minus 8, that's what goes on the outside of the parenthesis. Let's do some canceling, see what's left over. 5x minus 8's cancel. What's left over is what I circled. The 2x squared and a positive 5. And that's our answer. Now just a few more examples, same sort of thing. Let's take a look at this next one here. We've got common factors. Nope, almost have an n, but this last term hasn't had an n yet. So we draw two sets of parentheses. This time there's no number that's in common between these terms, just some n's. N squared. That's it. Let's take a look at these. So here I see 5 goes into each. So let's pull out a 5. Let's do the reducing. So n squared, that's what goes on the outside. And let's do the reducing here. Take out two n's here. Well, there's one n left over, so it's just an n. Here, these n squareds cancel out, so we're left with a minus 2. Over here, we take out that positive 5, so I'll put plus 5 there. Do the reducing. 5 goes into 5. Just left with an n. 5 goes into 5 one time. 5 goes into 10 two times. So minus 2. So now we're ready to take out that common binomial. Let's draw two parentheses there, or two fraction bars. And take out that n minus 2. So it's going on the outside of the parentheses, so I'm going to take that n minus 2. And then draw two sets of parentheses, take out those n minus 2's here, and let's see what's left over. We got an n squared, positive 5. That's it, just n squared plus 5. There's our answer. Well, another one to try. A little bit different here. So let's see what's different about this one compared to the other ones. Group the first two and the last two terms. Again, we did this because there were no common factors. 3 is almost a factor, but not quite, because this term here, this x, doesn't have a 3. Well, draw fraction bars there. Take out the common factor. I see 6 goes into both 6 and 18. I also see some x's, 2 x's. So 6x squared is what I'm going to take out. Over here, I can't take anything out, but we always have a common factor. And always take something out from these numbers so you know what to write down. Well, if you don't see any common factors, take out 1. And that's the difference here. So let's go ahead and rewrite what we've got. 6x squared is on the outside of a parenthesis. And then we do the reducing. 6's cancel out. X squareds cancel out. Just left with an x. 6 goes into 18 3 times. X squareds cancel out, so we got a plus 3. Over on this side, again, if you don't see anything, take out that 1. It's real important, otherwise you're going to end up not knowing what to add to the 6x squared. And it's 1 is what we add. So if you don't see any factors, put just a 1 on the outside. And now we can go ahead and take out that common binomial of x plus 3. And so I'll put the x plus 3 in parentheses because it represents one number. And that will go outside some parentheses. So x plus 3. That's what I'm pulling outside. Cancel out those x plus 3's and see what's left over. We got a 6x squared. See here, the x plus 3's cancel. If we didn't put that 1 here, you might not know what to write. You've got to have some number there, and 1 is that number. And so that's a little different than the other problems. And we got another one here that's a little bit different as well, so let's take a look at it. No common factors, so we'll group the first two and the last two terms. So let's go ahead and draw some parentheses around the first two and the last two. Now here, treat this minus 15 as plus negative. Make sure you show that as like a negative number. That's real important. Now let's take a look at the common factors. 2 goes into each of these numbers, and an f squared does as well. What goes in here? Well, look at this term here, this first term. See, when I do the division, I get a positive 3f. I want a positive 3f, not a negative. So because this term's negative, I'm going to pull out a negative 5. do that with both numbers because it's got to be the same number. You can't pull out different numbers for each. It's got to be the same value. Let's go ahead and rewrite what we've got. 2f squared goes on the outside. Do the division. 2 goes into 6 3 times. F squared cancels out, so we're just left with a 3f. And over here, 2 goes into 8 4 times. F squareds cancel out, so we're left with minus 4. And see, it was real important to pull out a minus 5 rather than a positive 5 because we want the same numbers. So if we just pulled out 5, it would become a negative 3f. But that's not what we want. We want a positive 3f to make those match. So that's why I pulled out a negative. See, those negatives will end up canceling, so just left with the 3f. Over here, we want a minus 4, and that's what happens. See, the minus 5 goes into 20 minus 4 times, so minus 4. So from that point, we can go ahead and do the reducing again. We can take out another common factor of 3f minus 4. So you can't take it out a factor unless they're common. That's the whole idea here, is to make sure that they're the same. So we now can take that 3f minus 4, put on the outside of some parentheses. Do some reducing to see what's left over. What's left over here? Well, we got that 2f squared, and we got a minus 5. And that would be our answer. So those are some of the problems you'll see on tonight's homework. Good luck.